Just before I start this video, I just want to say I've got dark skin, just something to do with the video, and it's not that the police are racist. Right, so almost 2 years ago, I was going around with this kid called Jimmy, and he was like straight up badly behaved, and he was about to get expelled at this point. I wasn't as bad as him, but we were both like part of the like badly behaved group at school, you know. At this point in the year, we were about to get a fancy new school, like made out of plastic. We didn't even need it, like we had a school. Yeah, this one was a little bit more high tech, and the old one was fine and bigger. Yeah, the new school was smaller, but it's shiny and new and totally worth the cost. Oh, what, the cost? Oh yeah, it was 14 million. Yeah, right, we just got 14 million pounds from the council. What should we do with it? Oh, well, we don't need anything. I was thinking, like, let's donate it to people on benefits or homeless or cancer research. Nah, mate, let's spend it on 3 tons of plastic to build a school half the size that we don't need. Oh, sound kid! So we were getting a new school this year. And a new school comes with new teachers and new kids. And one of these kids was Gary. And Gary was similar to those Rajis that attacked me at that beach. Except he wasn't as hard. It was his brother that was the hard one. And Gary was just aggressive. He'd been expelled from like his other school. And obviously he started hanging around with the badly behaved squad. Us. At first the kid was getting the piss taken out of him because of the way he looked by the other kids in school. How do I put this? Good representation. And also, he wasn't the brightest. Yeah, Gary, what kid? Oh, Joe King's coming down to jump me. He's proper hard. Like, what? Seriously? Yeah? He's proper solid. Yeah, some kid's coming down after school to jump us. Joe King? Oh, right, bye. And that was the only thing I ever done that could make him be pissy with us, when all the other kids were calling him like Megamind and Bugs Bunny. And I mean, he wasn't the nicer kid either. He was kind of a twat to like the weaker boys and like all the girls. And this one time we were in science and he was like sitting and this girl had like dodgy eyes and he started taking the mick to her. Not obviously to her face, because he's not hard enough to do that, but like, you know. So after about 2 weeks, him and Jimmy ended up running away from school, like, cause they were proper solid. And we were all friends at this point, and like, I liked him, he liked me, also I thought. And I just didn't go because I couldn't afford to get expelled, you know, in a job setting if I'm brown. Oh, yeah, like, I didn't want to hire any black people, but this guy's perfect for the job. Oh, well, don't hire him then. No, but I legally have to. Well, oh, look, he's been expelled from school. We didn't want him getting expelled from this workplace, so let's hire this white person who's unqualified for it. Fair enough. So, obviously, I didn't go. And it ended with Gary getting expelled. And then Jimmy got expelled for 2 weeks later for a totally different reason. I'll talk about that some other time. So anyway, it was all good for about 2 months. And then one day I was walking outside school with a couple of mates and like a teacher, like not one that teaches, like one that looks after kids' well-being and stuff or something. And then some girl ran up crying. I don't know why. And she told me there was a bunch of lads waiting outside to hit us, and they were led by Gary. So I could see them from just inside the gates of the school. So I started waving at them. And since the teacher was there, I obviously wasn't allowed out. And just saying, I'd never seen Gary for like the entire time he'd been expelled. So I don't know what his problem was. So, anyway, I got picked up and taken home by my mum. And the next night, I rang him about what this pago was about. I was all like, why do you want to hit us? And then he's all like, oh, because you're a Paki. Which is basically just because I'm brown. And then this kid's about a foot shorter than us, and he's skinny as fuck. And I was gonna smack him about. So I arranged to meet him the next day and have a fight. I prepared myself, I had backup and my Nike hoodie on to show how solid I am, and no one came. And the next day, no one came. So I just forgot about it. And then about a week later, me and my friend decided to buy lighters. And to get to the smoke shop where you buy the lighters from, we had to get the Metro. My friend always got the Metro, and I normally walked, but you know, no biggie. And on the Metro was Jimmy, and the other kid, Gary, wasn't on the Metro. So I talked to Jimmy for a bit, and then I play on my phone or something, like, you know, Candy Crush. And then I look up, and turns out Gary was on the other part of the train. Nothing to do with Jimmy, but, you know, he was just there. And I say, do you still want to fight? And he's like, oh yeah, where you getting off? I says I'm getting off here. And he goes, oh. So then he goes and talks to some fully grown men, Rajis, right? And at this point, I would get battered on the Metro if I stayed there. And my mate knew this, so he pulled me off the Metro and we ran off like pussies. And then I bought the lighters. Yeah, I still got it. So then, because I knew I looked like a pussy, to save my pride, I rang Jimmy, the other kid, and asked him to put Gary on the phone. Not thinking he would agree to it, but I says, if you want to fight, come down to school tomorrow. So the next day, I've got my night jacket on again, I've downed a can of Asda Savers energy drink, and I'm ready for this pugger. Except, I'm alone. And if you go to a fight alone, there's a good chance like everybody else's friends can jump in and beat you up. So you need your homies around. And my homies were not around. And I went outside to find my other friends, right? But instead, I find Gary, and he's wearing some like dodgy ISIS mask, and he was all alone. So I say, right, do you want to go to some field and like so we can have this fight? And he's like, oh yeah. And then out of the crowd, a person who I think was his brother, but I'm still not sure to this day, came and smacked me in the head right in front of school. And at this point I realised I was getting jumped, and I don't think Gary wanted that to happen, but you know. So anyway, I run into the crowd. And obviously, Gary chases me and starts punching me. And a teacher ends up grabbing me and taking me inside. I'm pretty sure he got hit too. So they ended up getting chased away by a bunch of kids from my school. And then one of my really close friends chased them into a school nearby for like retards or something. So anyway, inside, I basically found out I got hit with a keeper ring. And that's basically like a big spiky ring. My school basically called the police. Like, I told them everything, basically, except, about the smoke shop, but, you know, because that wasn't important. And then they left to find Gary. So, school rang my parents, and my mom came in, and we spoke to the deputy head. I just noticed how terrible his fingers were the entire time. He was just sitting there telling my mom what had happened. And I just noticed how, like, you know when you pull your skin back in the bath? Like, he'd never done that, and his finger was about 2 millimeters on, like, a fully grown adult hand. I'm like, what the fuck? So basically, we end up leaving, and I tell everything to my mom and dad, except the smoke shop bit. And then the police came to my house, and they basically say, oh, well, you told us the wrong story, because I forgot to tell them about that one time that I rang him after he came to school the first time. And then they said they all also weren't wearing masks, and I can swear on my dead dog's grave, they had full-on ISIS masks. Like, I swear. So they gave my dad like a number to call, and I honestly thought my dad would tear me limb from limb, but he didn't. He just smiled and said, oh, I always knew you'd bring the police to my house. Like, almost as if he was happy. And anyway, I finally got confirmation that the kid had a keeper ring on. I told my dad, and he kept referring to it as a knuckle duster, but you know. So the next day, a couple of my close friends went looking for Gary, and they basically ended up trapping him in Burger King. So obviously I wasn't allowed out, but what I heard is some girl got hit. So basically, she came up to one of my really close friends and started punching him in the arm. And he says, if you do that again, I'm gonna hit you. And then she just kept doing it. So he smacked her in the face and knocked her to the ground. And then, as she was getting up, he smacked her again. And at this point, a lad came out, and then he punched him in the arm. And he says, your lass has got a harder dig than you should be embarrassed. And then, I think there was another fight. I don't really know what happened though, because obviously I wasn't there. So about 3 months later, I seen Gary on his own. And I had a bunch of my mates with us, and I could have braided him there, but obviously I didn't, because you know the police were involved and stuff. So I just says, look, I don't want any more trouble, and shook hands with the kid. And then, like, so lucky I'd done this, 2 days later I saw him, and he had this kid with him, and the kid would have braided me all over, but just because I shook hands with him and said we were all sound, we shook hands again in front of this kid, and then nothing happened. So, you know. So, a little bit later, I'd done something illegal with a bunch of my other friends. I'll talk about that some other time. And the police basically took all our names and says, we're coming to your houses and we're going to speak to your parents. And then the next day, I'm awoken by the doorbell. And then my little sister immediately runs upstairs shouting at my mother, oh yeah, the police are here. And I'm like, oh shit, this is about last night. It turns out the police were just there checking up about the fight, and the officer was dead canny, and he just says, look, you shouldn't hang around with kids like Gary, like basically just keep away from Rajis, you know?